It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He's Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Monday. Well, I don't know if the second week is anything like his first week.
It's not even a week yet.
It's going to be a lot to talk about. Colombia, we don't want them. 50% tariff by next week. We will send our presidential plane to get them. And how many more you got? You want us to help you take other countries back too?
Well, remember though, that's after he balked a little bit and even posted on X, implying that he agreed with AOC.
Yeah,
the president of Colombia. Then he backed off.
Yeah.
What do you think it was that he? Because when I saw that, I went, he's being reaction. When I saw that he backed off, I go, okay, he's being reactionary, then backed off. For whatever reason, I don't know. But it's the same type of emotional, insane reaction you got from the left all weekend about everything. And they're constantly wrong. They end up being wrong every single time.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to sit back. And I have to tell you, I could just sit here and play audio cuts all day of things that happened over the weekend and not say anything.
Yeah.
Like right now. Let's play this. This is Bill Maher.
We'll get straight to it.
We'll get Bill Maher. Now, I don't necessarily agree with everything Stephan A. Smith says here in his analysis, but if you're looking at it from where he is, a liberal, then it does make sense as to some liberals, Democrats, independents that voted for Trump. Here it is.
Here's the deal. The man was impeached twice. He was convicted on 34 felony counts. And the American people still said, he's closer to normal than what we see
exactly.
left. That's what they're saying. He's closer to normal. Why? Because something that pertains, when you talk about the transgender community, for example, and you're talking about the issues that pertain to less than 1% of the population, the Democratic Party came across as if that was a priority more so than the other issues. And so he comes into office. Now you're talking about childbirth, citizenship, and what have you. He knows that's not going to pass the mustard, but he knows that he made that promise. So when he shows up week one on Capitol Hill and he says, this is what we're going to do through an executive order, even though it's going to be shot down through the courts and what have you, he's saying, I kept my promise. A lot of other things that he's going to point to that he's going to try to do. I kept my promise. Then you turn around and you look at the left and you say, what promises did you keep? Now, you might know the answer to that. I'm certainly not questioning your knowledge about that at all. What I'm saying is what resonated with the voter. What voter out there can look at the Democratic Party at this moment in time and say, there's a voice for us, somebody that speaks for us, that goes up on Capitol Hill and fights the fights that we want them fighting on our behalf. They didn't do that. And that's why their behinds are home and that man is back into the White House. And they want to sit up there and talk. You look at the networks right now, they're talking about him. Look at it. This is the latest. Look at him. Here he goes again. Well, you know what here he goes again means? He's doing what he said he was going to do. He promised you he was going to do these things, and he walked into office week one, and that's exactly what he's doing. And he's saying, y'all do something about it. And when you try to do something about it, he's going to say, look at them now. Now they're concerned about these issues. Were they talking about that during the campaign? Hell no.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, about 30%, 40% of the stuff he's fairly accurate on. But this is something I thought about over the weekend is that, we said going into Inauguration Day, you have people waiting for January 20th, things to change drastically. Many people, many families waiting for prices to come down. When are prices going to come down? When are prices going to come down? But on the list of promises that he made, it's hard keeping up with all of the ones he acted on last week. It was just nonstop every single day. But the one thing that I think, and because the economy's right up there and was in 24 with the border. And they were neck and neck in some polls. The border was actually number one in their list of concerns. And every single person who was waiting for him to do something on the border saw him take action. If you didn't, you're not paying attention.
Well, the only thing I disagree with him on, number one, I don't know how the birthright issue is going to be judged by the Supreme Court, because the 14th Amendment, when you talk about the 14th Amendment, that applied to slaves, and that applied to slaves that were considered not citizens of the United States when they were here. It's a completely different ball game than how they're using it now. And I think the Supreme Court, there's a great chance the Supreme Court will agree with Trump on it and say birthright citizenship is not a right under the 14th Amendment. It was applied specifically for slaves that Dred Scott specifically said were not citizens. And you see a lot of that talk over the weekend on it. But you're not politically, even if that wasn't the case, how they rule it. And I don't know how they could not rule it that way, because obviously that's what the 14th Amendment applied to. But as you know, the 14th Amendment, when it came to things like, gay marriage, the liberals in the court didn't matter what the 14th Amendment was about. It said, we can expand it. That could still happen. I would be surprised if that happened, during, this Supreme Court. Where else he has it wrong is on the 34 felonies. You probably could find someone who said, I don't care if it was 34 felonies, but most Americans who voted for Trump and those who changed viewed the 34 felonies as bogus. That's one of the reasons they voted for Trump. They didn't vote for Trump in spite of that. They voted for Trump because they viewed what the Democrats did as lawfare and heading us closer to a banana republic. So that's where I would disagree.
Yeah, that and the
with him on
impeachment thing, because it's implied that he actually did something to earn the impeachments, and it did something to earn the 34 counts when he started out.
But as a liberal, I understand him taking those points of view. By the way, it's sort of like the what was the other thing over the firing of the inspector generals, where they say, Trump broke the law because the law says he needs to wait 30 days and consult Congress as to why. That's the same thing as the War Powers Act. And for people that don't understand, the War Powers Act is a set of rules that Congress set up that the president must abide to when it comes to using U.S. troops. Congress has no authority over executive branch power, and they cannot change it with the law. They can only change it through a constitutional amendment. And so when you look at Congress coming up with a law, that would be the question specifically, how that law was written. But if it's a congressional law, which of course it is, and not a constitutional amendment, and Congress passed a law saying, well, here's the Independent Counsel Act, and the president must do this, and this. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that the executive branch has to abide by congressional law on the executive branch.
Right. Yeah.
If it's in the Constitution.
Right.
Only if it's in the Constitution. So, but that's where a lot of people don't. They go, well, it's a law. Nah, it's not constitutional law, and that's how the separation of powers works.
Well, and it's also, you can't amend the Constitution simply by having Joe Biden come out and saying so. And another thing on his way out the door. What a joke.
Well, the other thing that you got out of this weekend, see what happens when you don't work remotely? See what you can accomplish and the things you can do when you actually go to the office. Now, I do not consider him taking the trip out to California, remote work. That was
traveling for work.
That was traveling for work. But you see now, you understand, Biden was gone, 40% of his presidency, he was gone. 40% of his presidency, he was gone. He didn't accomplish anything. Trump, 6.5 days. All right, 6.75 days in office. And look at all this stuff, because when you go to work and you don't work remotely,
you get things done. And by the way, if you apply the word gone in the proverbial sense, Biden was gone 99.9% of the time.
Okay.
He just wasn't all there, and we all know it. It's refreshing to see. It's went and visited my dad over the weekend, and inevitably we're going to have a conversation. You know, it's turned into our little talk show when everybody else walks out of the room at Mom and Dad's house. Mom and my sister-in-law and my wife all went shopping. I was told that my sister-in-law, who's hilarious, she got in the car. She goes, "Let's all go get matching tattoos." But my dad and I had this great conversation, and he's been battling a number of things. He's almost 92, but he's been battling a number of things very seriously in recent months, but really since mid 22, and yet still sharper than ever, especially given where he's been recently with his health. But he had so many points to make on Trump. It was just over and over and over again. This great little talk show that we have had for years. Every time I go see him, right there in his living room, and I wonder how much applies of there is, with my dad, a conservative, he's had little tolerance from the left, for the left for a long time. But I wonder, I started thinking on the way home, I really wonder how much it applies to the everyday person who's not a wonk. Dad's retired, so he can spend as much time as he wants, in front of the TV or reading. He's always on his laptop. All of those people who don't do that, they've got, maybe a job or two, thanks to Biden and inflation. But it's exactly what Stephen A. Smith was, the sentiment that Stephen A. Smith really was expressing there is, sorry. It really is a lot like after 2016. It's different in most ways, but after the 2016 election, when the Wall Street Journal went into Harlem and asked people, just a man on the street kind of, informal survey, why do you think Hillary lost and Trump won? Because he's identifying problems here at home. She's identifying, problems elsewhere. Well, this time around, you can multiply that to the nth. And I think a lot of people were looking at it, basically asking, and in my brain, that the question kept repeating all last year up until Election Day. I can almost hear the average voter saying, yeah, but what are you going to do about it? Well, the Democrats and Biden and ultimately Kamala Harris couldn't fix the problems because they created the problems. And so they're not going to do anything about it. And her fake turn on, I'm stronger on the border than Donald Trump, was a load of BS, and everybody knows it. It was the worst political season I have seen for the Democrats in my lifetime. I don't remember a worse political season for them in terms of their inability to get together and actually promise something. They used to be the party that would promise people, here's what we're going to do for you. Now, it was all free stuff we couldn't pay for, stuff they had to borrow for. But they would promise to do something for you, and for years now, they've been promising to do nothing but damage. And it doesn't matter that they're doing damage anymore. It doesn't matter that they only want to do damage to the people and entities that they think you disagree with, whether it's big corporations or CEOs. People are looking at this saying, yeah, but what are you going to do for me?
I just wonder what the impact was of Trump in California on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was extremely powerful.
Yeah.
I was trying to watch my or find my great nephew's basketball game on streaming. The streaming wasn't working right, but I couldn't even focus on that Friday because the buzz on Trump talking to Newsom, going after, Karen Bass. It was all over the place. Mm-hmm. It was just a monster. And what you got from that. And remember, I said this a long time ago, that one of the reasons that I believe this is in 2016 and continues to be why people like Trump. My father said eventually people are going to want a president who does a job, actually gets the job done. We always talked about my dad saying, DTJ, do the job. Just stop complaining, do the job. There's so much talk, and he just gets in there and is very, very blunt. Well, we're going to bypass this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do this. Mm-hmm. And, why can't we do that this way? Let's do it this way. Well, that's unacceptable. Mm-hmm. That's what the American public wants to hear. Yep. They don't want to hear government go, well, we have to go through the proper processes, get the damn job done.
Well, no, that's another thing, too, is that, some of the older political wonks, if you think about it, or really, the establishment types on Capitol Hill. Well, there's going to be a problem, and it's John Boehner all over again. Wow, we don't like messy. There's a process. Get out, leave. People don't want to hear that. If you don't want to do the work, if you don't want to fight to find a way to get it done, because Trump fought his way to where he is right now. That's the difference. They were anointed, including Kamala.
86690 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Starting and charging system-related issues are one of the most common causes of winter breakdowns. So when your batteries talk, it's important you listen. Knowing the warning signs that could indicate your electrical system needs attention can help you avoid getting stuck out in the cold this winter. Your truck's inability to crank at the proper speed is the most obvious sign that a battery-related issue is present. If you experience any sluggishness when cranking your engine, get a full electrical system check from a trusted service provider. Continuing to crank a vehicle with low or inadequate voltage will damage the starter and can cost you uptime down the road.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. I have to tell you this. I can never retire from this job as long as the Buffalo Bills exist.
Yeah?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's much easier. The last 5 playoff games in a row that they've lost, the last 5 years, every one, I've been sleeping because I have to work. And that is the best way. It's a lot less painful when you're sleeping during it and you don't see a play. And I know there's a lot of people throwing out quotes out there and great sayings of encouragement. I tend right now to think about the Goo Goo Dolls from Buffalo, their Buffalo band, who wrote, "It always rains like hell on the Loser's Day parade."
Yeah. When is that parade? Is it this week?
The best one. Remember when Cleveland went winless?
Yeah.
And they held a parade.
Perfect record.
I always loved that one. That's like, all right, that beats anything I've ever seen in sports.
Participation parade. That's great. I love it. Look, if you're still with them and they had 0 wins, you're a fan. Nobody could ever argue that. Good for you.
There's always next year, and the next year, and the next century, and the next millennium.
You'll be losing for eons.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. We got to play another Stephen A. Smith.
All right.
On Bill Maher the other day.
Okay.
Don't worry, I made sure there's no profanity.
All right.
But
I'm going to ask you to make sure there was.
All right, but the one thing still that Stephen A. Smith doesn't get before I play this one, just because we played one audio cut earlier, nobody talks about the fact, and I keep using the S word because I think it's important because it's a harsh word. I think it's important to note that even in this analysis, they don't talk about the fact that the Democrats suck on the issues.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, Trump's keeping his what promises are Trump? Is Trump keeping promises that the majority of the people are against? No. He's keeping promises on most of the issues that the public wants. Did you see Just the News and John Solomon on DOGE? The majority of the people aren't behind it.
Yeah. Right.
Majority aren't for cutting what they're talking about cutting. Well, you and I have always questioned that. In fact, I did during the campaign. I said, I have no idea why they're obsessed with it. I want it. That's the whole thing. You and I want it.
But we're a very small group.
Yeah, we
fiscal conservatives
right.
are going extinct.
Right. We want it, but we did ask the question, why are they pounding on it? And during the campaign and talking about, well, it's not going to be $2 trillion anymore. Elon backed off on the $2 trillion, $2 trillion a year. And I'd be happy if they got $100 billion a year. I'd be happy if they just kept the budget even.
Yeah.
You know, said, well, we're not going to increase the budget, the rate of inflation. Everybody has to take a 3% cut this year.
Right.
I mean, I'd be happy with that one.
Mm-hmm.
But when the Trump campaign was pounding it, I'm like, again, I want it, but politically, I was saying, I don't see, the public isn't screaming for major cuts.
No.
But we'll get to that coming up here in a little bit. But it's still the right thing to do. It's still the right thing to do. And at times, you have to be a leader.
Yeah. Yeah.
Times you have to be a leader and say, this is what we have to do. Because sometimes the public, even the majority of the public, is wrong.
Yep. Yep.
Especially when they vote for Democrats. All right, here is Stephen A. Smith, and this is great. This is just great, talking about the process of the process that the Democrats went through for Kamala, and it's Congressman Ro Khanna from California, Bill Maher, and Stephen A. Smith. All right, and he actually gets into this is he's almost to the level of, what do you mean it's going to be 21-19? It's going to be 32-29. No, it's going to be almost like the sports stuff. But here we go.
He had actual ideas.
Exactly. And the difference is they used to say Obama was a celebrity. Obama became a celebrity because he was great at his job of being a politician.
You know the difference?
That's different. That's a huge difference.
This may get me in a little trouble. You know the difference between the Obama and Harris campaigns was? Obama connected with people, and all the celebrities wanted to do concerts because they wanted to be with Obama, because he was with the people. In the Harris campaign, they went after the celebrities to do the concerts to get the people. They got it backwards.
I'm just saying.
I don't know about that. Okay, let's be honest here. First of all, one could argue that Obama resonated more because the people chose him to be the Democratic nominee for the presidency of the United States of America, as opposed to somebody backdooring their way into that position. Let's just be honest about it. You had Biden. I know that you supported Biden. Obviously, you spoke about his mental acuity and all of that other stuff, but we all saw what we saw. Before the debate on June 27th, when the debate happened, and by the time that was exposed, you then waited 3 weeks after that before he decided to walk away, but it was too late for anybody else to get in. So Kamala Harris, who didn't resonate during the primaries in 2020, couldn't even get to Iowa, suddenly is the Democratic nominee. And then you roll up at the convention in Chicago, and everybody's like, she's a rock star. So it was like, wait a minute, how that happened? How that happened? I don't know how that happened. So you're looking at all of those things and you're saying, yes, I voted for her. A lot of people voted for her. But in the end, we end up feeling like damn fools because we supported it. We fell for the okie doke, as they say. You know she did. If you had a primary, the likelihood is that she would not have been the Democratic nominee. And you can't say that about Trump in this side.
These are, by the way, there's three liberals talking, just so you know.
Yep.
Now, this is about something we've talked about all the time about how the Democrats celebrities loved Trump before he ran for office.
Yeah.
But he was promoting the same issues before he ran for office when all the Democrat celebrities were totally gaga over him. Here's this part of the conversation.
He did wrestling. He was a joke.
But you know what the problem with that is? He was a celebrity, but he was made to be a celebrity by a whole bunch of Democrats. Think about that. I mean, I'm telling you, listen, Trump, and I've said this many occasions, I knew Trump before he ran for president. When you're hosting your fights at Trump Casino and you're showing up to Knicks basketball games with Bill O'Reilly and stuff like that, we would see him. The players would talk to him. The rap artists would talk to him. Celebrities all over the place from Hollywood, from L.A. to New York would talk to him. And they all loved him until he ran for office. So then when they talked about him the way that they talked about him, they were like, you didn't feel that way about him before. What changed? And they asked, so a lot of people asked themselves that question, and they weren't satisfied with the answers the Dems gave them.
Pretty simple and true. And we've said it.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times over the years. And that was it. That was Trump once said during an interview, sit-down interview a few years ago, that the day after he decided to run, that he announced he was first going to run, that would have been for the 2016 season, he regretted it. He just said, this is going to change my life. This is going to ruin my business. This is going to, and I'd love to know an update, by the way, to that to that sentiment, and if he somehow, I mean, he clearly compartmentalized it and has worked with it. But the liberals loved him up until that point. Remember the whole Billy Bush tapes?
Oh, yeah.
The Billy Bush tapes sat on a shelf for how long? 11 years. Why is that? Liberals loved him. He was a celebrity. Nobody cared to put that out there until he ran for president.
How many times did Oprah ask him when he's going to run for president?
Right.
Remember Oprah asking him and then everybody cheering like crazy?
Yeah, and then Larry King would ask him, he goes, could you back away, Larry? Your breath is horrible.
That may be my
Anybody ever
favorite.
tell you that?
That may be my favorite Trump cut ever. Larry, your breath's really bad. Anybody ever tell you that?
Anybody ever tell you that? That didn't start on Twitter. That started on Larry King. It probably started years before. But those were the days when they would just ask him about the issues, right? Issues. He was consistent all along on those issues.
Well, you notice in all the three audio cuts that we played, nobody's talking about the issues. And we've been playing since the election was over. Democrats analyzing, because what we just played there was three liberals. Mm-hmm. And nobody talks about the fact that, hey, you know something? We suck on the issues. Mm-hmm. I will say this, Stephen A. Smith did bring up the radical transgender movement, but he brought it up in the context that it only affects a very small number of people, and that's basically was the major reason that people didn't care, and Trump was talking about things that affect people. Well, yeah, but also it is radical, and it would affect and did start affecting more broadly what was going on, and it showed how an issue like that got the FBI to start monitoring parents and their cars in parking lots at school board meetings. Mm-hmm. And so they really sort of poo-poo the actual issues and the impact of where you stand on the issues and how radical it is. just to say, well, we're not communicating effectively. Well, Trump, we liked Trump before. We didn't like. Why?
Yeah, right.
Why?
Right. Find me anybody on the left that's been consistent and that can demonstrate that since he's been famous, I've been against everything he stood for. That you're not going to find anybody.
Yeah, because they used to like what he believed, and then they embraced the radical agenda of the Democrats.
Right.
They embraced him, and somebody needs to tell Stephen A. Smith that.
Yep.
Look, you embraced radicalism by voting for her and voting for him. That's what you did. You voted for open borders.
Yep.
You voted for criminals in here. Stephen A. Smith, you voted for it. Bill Maher, you voted for it. You voted for the identity politics. You voted for a party that consistently doesn't judge people as an individual, but judges them by the group that they have decided to, fence them in on.
Well, it's what they're basically saying. They're admitting that I don't think they realize it. That they are all wrong, that the American people don't stand with them, the ones saying this about Donald Trump. They're the ones who supported this leftist agenda over and over, including Bill Maher. In fact, Bill Maher on the Hitler thing, the others weren't Hitler. This guy really is Hitler. He said that years ago.
Yep.
And yet they sit there. The American people aren't with us. The American people aren't. The eroding, almost extinct cable news outlets. Well, we wonder why we underreported the cognitive issues of President Biden. We did underreport it. Did we underreport it? Yeah, we underreported it. No. You took a stand to defend him to the point of Joe Scarborough saying, F you if you can't handle the truth about, by the way, the false truth, which isn't the truth at all, about him having no cognitive issues. He changes a tire without even using a jack. Jack.
I'm telling you, what a weekend. The one thing that he was that I like, though, is where he talked about how basically reactionary the left is. Look what he's done. Look at it. Well, that's because he promised to do that. That's what the people expect from him. He's doing this because that's what, but. And I mean, how reactionary they were. And AOC is now becoming the reactionary leader of the Democratic Party. And she keeps just walking into a brick wall every time she does it.
Yeah, she really does. And it's hurting the party even more. You heard it earlier. It's like, just let the liberals go crazy, and he'll point over. See, they're doing it again. They're doing it again. They're doing it again. And because they're not going to stop. Trump isn't making them do this. They do this on their own. Yeah. This is who they are. This is how they're built, and they're not going to change.
866-90-RED-I.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-I.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Oh, my gosh. Coming up, we'll have audio cuts from both J.D. Vance, the vice president, and Tom Homan from ICE on the Sunday morning news shows. One of the beautiful things, it was Friday, and I believe it was also Saturday, where, after Trump was, talking about, got to get rid of FEMA, whatever. The Trump surrogates were all over that FEMA's going to be gone, and it's about time because the federal government shouldn't be involved in any type of disaster relief, and it should be just held to the states. Trump never said that.
No.
But they picked that up on the Sunday morning news shows and threw that at J.D. Vance. Like get rid of FEMA? Mississippi can't take care of itself. But it's not what we're saying.
Right.
And it's like, so they were paying attention to what the Trump surrogates got wrong.
Right.
That Trump wanted FEMA gone. Well, of course, Trump didn't want FEMA gone, or he might want FEMA gone, but it wasn't that he doesn't want federal assistance to hard-hit areas. Otherwise, him being there Friday would have been useless.
Right.
Because if Trump was there Friday, yet there was no federal help, the locals would have said, shut up, go home.
Exactly.
You just said you're not going to help us.
Right.
And you're not going to help any disaster.
Right.
He never said that. So the Trump surrogates got it wrong. But then worse than that is the liberals picked up what the Trump surrogates got wrong and used it against J.D. Vance, and he blasted back.
Don't use just somebody on the social media websites. Yeah. You know, if it were Trump's official page, on social media, that's one thing. But they're going off of, well, somebody posted on X that blah, blah, blah. So? That's not what we're doing.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right, I want to see more polls on this because I don't know precisely how this was asked in its Associated Press, and I want to see what people think post-January 20th. And I say this because you and I looked at the poll in the radical transgender movement, and as we know, the New York Times poll that came out last week showed roughly 80% of Americans against men playing against women in sports. That's the highest number ever.
Right.
It's never been close to that. And so I looked at that and said, okay, are things changing because of it? And I asked a question here because this is Associated Press poll that was conducted January 9th through the 13th. About half of adults surveyed have an unfavorable opinion of Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk, according to new polling data released. The poll found that 52% have an unfavorable opinion of Musk, while 39% have a favorable view. I don't think I question that. I really question that. When asked if they support President Donald Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, which Musk is leading, 39% said they disapprove. Only 29% approve. The rest, I don't know. But there's a pretty big I don't know in there.
Yeah.
There's 30% I don't know, which could change it. But, again, when you talk about cutting and the amount they're talking about, as we said earlier, I was wondering politically why they focused in on that so much when the public wasn't asking for that. Mm-hmm. The public will say they want to cut until you cut something that they like. And if you were, as we said, going to cut $2 trillion a year, stuff's going to get cut that you don't like. The survey found that most people view red tape, such as government regulations and bureaucracy, as major problems. However, 23% said only 23% said they supported eliminating certain federal agencies, and 29% said they supported eliminating large number of federal jobs. On the question about requiring federal workers to return to the office full-time, 43% of the respondents said they agreed with the move, 34% didn't have an opinion, and 22% said that they oppose the decision, which means you've got 43 plus 34, you've got roughly 77% that, I got that right? Yeah, 77% said they want federal workers to return to the office, or they didn't have an opinion, which is fine, which means they're okay with it either way, which is actually good. But I'd like to see more polling on that, because Americans normally poll and say, no, we need to cut. Just don't cut what I like. Now, they do say that they believe that you can get to a balanced budget just by getting rid of foreign aid and waste and inefficiency, and that isn't true. Well, as you and I have talked about before.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to unpack here when you're doing a poll like this, because it really does get down to the neighborhoods. You have to get down to the cuts that will affect their neighborhood, right? It's what we've talked about before. And I don't mean that literally, but you have to get into the details of what they're cutting before you get an accurate poll, I'm convinced. The school lunch program, oh, no, there's too much waste in the school. We're going to cut it. No, don't touch it. We've been here before. So I don't know. I suspect we're at that point. It's kind of I don't know if populist is the right word, but it is almost a populist approach to the broad answer, which is, do you think spending is out of control? Oh, yeah. Should we cut? Yeah. Now, what if we cut this? No. You start getting into the details. You start going line by line, and people fall away. Well, no, we don't want that. Well, no, we don't want that. The harsh reality is there are very few, relatively speaking, fiscal conservatives left. And we know this because the makeup on Capitol Hill reflects that. You have a handful, but then we get into the details of that handful, and you go back and do the back and forth on them, and then you have some disqualifiers that puts them out. We've talked about this before. It's not the first time, and every time we go through this, it ends up being, okay, we have 3/4 of one on Capitol Hill, and only because he votes no on everything, Rand Paul. But again, it's not.
Yeah, but we found Rand Paul. Remember
that's
that?
why I said 3/4. He wasn't. He's not a full fiscal conservative.
Right.
And it's only because he only gets to 75%. I don't even know if it's 75%. Because of inflation, it works this way. It works the opposite way with inflation.
And that's because that was because of
the salt tax.
The salt tax. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he started talking about, our friends in the blue states. Wait a minute, Rand Paul. You've never been concerned about our friends. You don't have any friends in the blue states. But it's, then we did the homework. You and I, in fact, it was during the show we workshopped this and we did the homework and went, oh, that's going to hurt his state.
Well, and then we brought up Chip Roy.
Yeah, right.
Who wants to cut majorly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just 2 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
When they were talking about budget stuff, and he said, I don't want to vote for this because this is a new administration coming in that's talking about we're going to cut trillions and trillions of dollars. And so you had Trump surrogates all over social media calling him a rhino.
That's primary against him.
That he needs to be primaried because he's not agreeing with the Trump agenda. And his point was, I'm actually agreeing with the Trump agenda. I want Trump and his surrogates to agree with the Trump agenda.
Right.
And show that we can start cutting now.
Yeah. And that same Chip Roy then said, all right, let's raise corporate taxes.
Right. Exactly. Then, so it's like you shake your head. You're like, well, we don't know where anybody is.
Right. That's why we, that's the whole point of getting down to the minutia on things. You start asking, this person or that person, and this is the way it falls on Capitol Hill because this is the way it falls with the rank and file. There are very few of us conservatives. I wonder these days if we'd have enough people, if we all moved to the same district in one state. It would have to be Texas because I'm not going anywhere. If we'd have enough to actually constitute a district. What is it, roughly 700,000? If there's even that many people, but it's evident because every time we get down to actually looking at cuts or talking about cuts, then people fall away. So I don't think you can. I don't buy this survey. I love the approach, and I said this from the beginning. The whole DOGE thing, all right, if it gets the conversation going. But so far, it really hasn't outside of the fiscal wonks circles. It really hasn't. It hasn't resonated. Maybe that will change between now and next summer when it's over. But I don't think it's going to do much. If you only got the conversation going and everybody was having the real discussion, then that would be one thing. But even then, let's say that were the case. Let's say July 4th, 26th, it's over and everybody's talking about it. We're talking about it. All right, but then what are you going to do about it? Because when you go to make the move, it goes right back to where we are. And the rank and file, the overwhelming majority of rank and file, don't want anything touched.
Well, did you hear about the DOGE clock? This is how much we're saving America, and it's up to, I forgot, like 80 billion or something. And it's like the response that I saw to it, my same thing. So I expect to see that 80 billion then gone from the deficit next year.
Right. Exactly.
Don't give me the hypothetical savings on it. I want to see the actual budget cut.
Well, it's like saying, well, look, this is my hypothetical savings account, when I'm 275 years old. It's like, I'm going to be a trillionaire finally. It does nothing. If you haven't done the work, if the work hasn't been done, because it is light years. It's like saying we're all going in the same direction. But there is a massive, massive, massive canyon that you're going to run into, and how you cross that canyon is everything. You can't get there unless you do. Sorry, Evel Knievel, it's not going. It's not going to fly unless you get to the other side.
We've seen the political will to talk about it now in a much more serious way.
Right.
Is there the political will to actually make those cuts?
Right. I would love to be pleasantly surprised.
I would say no, and if I'm wrong, crucify me.
Yeah, no, I would love to be pleasantly surprised, but right now it is a flat out no.
No.
I will be right on this. If they prove me wrong, it'll be great. I'll celebrate that.
So will I.
But it's not going to be the case, because that's just where people are. Because cutting means inflicting pain, and people aren't good with pain, especially when that pain comes from the government. That's flat out what it is. And people look at it and, well, I'm still getting mine. I still get mine. I still get mine. I still get mine. The deficit, the debt, the debt. And they're not following every day of where we are on the interest, just the interest every year on the national debt. And it's horrifying when you think about it, because at some point, when that grows to a certain point and you can no longer afford to pay the interest on the national debt, it doesn't matter what you want. The cuts it won't be cuts. Certain things in the budget will absolutely disappear. The economy will all but collapse. And there's no way around that. You can't, once we're at that tipping point, there's no way back without just shredding. I mean, I don't know. It frightens me to think about getting to that point, because it is a threshold. There is a threshold where the momentum, it's like teaching kids about, compounding interest, You show them, well, look. And then when you get to this point, then you're making the bank is paying you this amount of money for keeping your money in savings and everything else. And I'll never forget this. We did this with our grandchildren. And they actually all have accounts. They all have savings accounts. And they love that idea. You mean if I don't touch it, they'll just pay me money to leave that money there? Yep, they love that idea. But at some point, it just starts growing to, wow, look at that. Look what I could make off interest alone, when they get to be my age. Well, the problem is on the debt, is the interest has that same compounding effect over and over again. We've talked about this, and we're at a very frightening level right now. It takes a huge, chunk of the budget every year.
You know, you were telling me about a recruiter that that said January is the worst they've seen
in years.
In years.
And in terms of hiring.
Right, I'm bringing that up, that if hiring slows down and the economy slows down, that means less tax revenue, and that means, again, where you have a deficit, the interest on the debt alone, that by October 1st of this year is expected to be $1.2 trillion, just interest on
alone.
the debt.
Yep.
Not the debt.
Nope.
Interest
just the interest
on the debt.
Yep.
The interest on the debt alone has skyrocketed past where the debt was each and every year a few years pre-COVID.
Yep. And that will only, and we'll get to a point where we can no longer, if we keep this up, where we can no longer maintain the payments on that interest. You've got to pay that interest on that debt every year. And if we get to the point where we can't do that, then there won't be any talk about cuts.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
The IFTA tax program redistributes tax revenue to states based on your actual miles run. Thus, the truly cheapest fuel can only be found if you subtract federal and state taxes and state surcharges from the pump price to compare. The strategy means that you buy without regard for whether you are paying more at the pump in taxes. IFTA also considers state surcharges, which complicates the fuel buying strategy. Indiana, Kentucky, and Virginia have per gallon surcharges. Connecticut, Kentucky, New Mexico, New York, and Oregon have per-mile surcharges. While some owner-operators buy only enough fuel to get through surcharge states, this practice can backfire, depending on the actual cost of the fuel in each state. When comparing fuel prices, always remember, pump pride minus taxes equals the real fuel cost. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, I've talked about in the last 10 years how I'm not as passionate, for sports as I used to be. I used to watch all the time, and I don't know the sports channels anymore and everything like that. And I think it's because I have found, forget about fantasy football, reality politics is actually a better sport to watch.
Oh yeah,
the politics. I mean, right. I'm fascinated by what's going on with Trump. Just 6.8 days, into it. It's fascinating watching what he's doing. But for me, I have such an interest in the Democrats and the media, seeing if they're going to change at all, and they're not. And
No.
we'll have some audio coming up here in just a little bit, but they're not going to change at all.
No.
You and I we played a bunch of cuts from Bill Maher and Stephen A. Smith. Bill Maher did have a good line though. He said he's not just the most powerful guy in the world and just made himself into the riches. He's actually kind of cool at 78. I mean, rappers like him. The athletes are doing the dance. I was making fun of him. Blah 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 blah. I can't say that. And now they're into it. I mean, the Village people are gay for Trump now.
Well, it's, the take is so different than it was. I told you over the weekend, yesterday actually, there was an article from the BBC. And here's the headline: confident, organized, still freewheeling. Trump 2.0 has learned from the past. It's a very different media take on this. They were I think a big part of the difference between 2017 and 2025. Trump coming in 2017, they had already fabricated the whole Russian collusion hoax, and the media was fully on board with it. They were running with it. Remember BuzzFeed? Well, we can't really confirm any of this, but we're going to run with it anyway. That was actually, I'm paraphrasing, but that was the nature of their disclaimer when they posted that story. Now it's, oh, holy crap. He won and he's going to work. What do we do? Hitler! It's the only thing they've got left.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. I'm telling you the reaction. The Democrats right now are as reactionary as I've ever seen them. I just saw this one. The White House's statement on Colombia. And this was written by Chris D. Jackson, who he's in politics in Tennessee. I know he was formerly a county commissioner in Tennessee. And in the White House press release, they spell Colombia wrong in the title. They have it right in the text, but in the title, they have a U instead of an O. So, this is the reaction. Say what you will about Joe Biden, but at least his White House knew how to spell Colombia. Basic competence. It's gone now.
Yeah.
I mean, they are so reactionary. We're coming to the final conclusion based on a typo.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it's like that this shows the competence, the incredible competence of the Biden administration that's lacking in the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Like, my God, are they ever? I mean, they're just, I swear to you, you and I said this a long time ago. We said, how far are they going to go? And it's like they keep doubling down and they keep believing. And this is why I find that what's going on with the Democratic Party more interesting, not more substantial, because the substance all coming from Trump right now and the Republicans. Well, the Republicans led by Trump.
Yeah.
Because they are.
Right.
And it's like they just keep thinking, we just haven't explained to the American people that what we believe is the correct way. They just cannot admit that we're incredible, bonkers radical.
Right.
We're radicals. They just cannot admit that. They just can't. We said they probably can't change because you'd have to change up on identity politics and the radical transgender movement on the border, and they just can't do it. They just can't.
No,
and
they
so,
can't. And this is, but again, it's every attack is so weak.
I know.
And it really goes nowhere. There's nothing. Even the thing with the Hitler salute on Elon Musk just became the biggest joke on social media. They just got shredded on social media. And then they kept at it. They didn't give it up. And the reason is because they really don't have anything else. They have nothing. AOC on the floor and talking about deportation of criminals. So they're going to be rounding people up and taking them out of the country. And everybody was like, hey, we think she's starting to get it. We think she finally understands.
The mocking of it.
Oh, my gosh.
It's as if, we've talked about how they have no self-awareness at all. They're so inside their own bubble, and it goes up pretty high. You and I talked about one of the problems, and we talked about this over a year ago.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was over a year ago. When was that? Yeah, because the debate with golly, time is flying.
Hmm.
The debate with DeSantis was 2023, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez, I mean, time's just flying so quickly. But you and I had said we were surprised at the polling on him, but then we weren't.
Right.
We said because he's in his own bubble of California, they get in their own bubble and everybody agrees with them and they believe. And this sort of goes back to the media and what Bernard Goldberg said in his book Bias way back in whenever that book came out, 99, 2000, where he said, you don't understand. You don't understand the media. They don't think they're liberal. They think they're right.
Right.
And they live in their own bubble and they go to their own cocktail parties and they hang around with people that, have their exact same opinion. And they don't believe they're on the left. They believe there's the Democrats, there's the Republicans, and they're right. And they just happen to agree more with the Democrats, but their opinions are always liberal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they live in this bubble and they can't get out of it. And that's exactly what's happening right now to the point of unbelievable instant reaction and then massive mockery, and they just forget it and they move to the next one.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically it. And they live in that bubble of today and move on and think everybody's going to forget what they just said a day or two ago. But they also create their own rules that way. They create rules all the time that contradict what's going on. This is why, because of DEI policy, they had money that was already allocated, but couldn't spend a dime of it because DEI keeps them running into each other. It was like that little electric football game where they just, little vibrating table where they're just all running into each other. No, there's no sense of direction at all, and you can't build that because DEI, the rules on DEI would change on the fly.
If people don't remember the perfect example of this, and we have said liberalism, the obvious failure of liberalism came with the whole broadband money.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Yeah, with the broadband, specifically the broadband
you got money allocated and you can't spend it.
Billions of dollars over 3 years they've had it. Nobody's been connected to broadband at all because the rules and regulations, and this is what we've said before. We told you this was going to happen because when you live in the victim oppressor narrative all the time, and your only goal is to create more victims and therefore create more oppressors, eventually those people that were victims become oppressors, and sometimes they become victims and oppressors at the same time. Yeah. And they keep expanding it and dividing where they finally got to the point. Think about this with liberalism where they got to. Yeah. They can still collect the money, but they are so insane that they can't spend the money.
Right.
They can collect it, but they can't even spend it.
Yeah. The hard part is over. Convincing every lawmaker or enough lawmakers to pass the spending and allocate that money, and then they run into a brick wall because every single time you move, DEI blocks you.
Exactly.
It's like, well, you can't go here. Well, sorry. Well, you can't go here. Well, sorry. Well, we can't do this. We can't use that contractor. We can't involve these people. Those people can't do it. Oh, by the way, there's a new rule we just introduced into DEI. Oh, well, stop everything. They couldn't get it off the ground. You can't get anything done.
You've only checked 89 out of the 99 qualifications that you need here.
Now,
okay, well, I've got all the 99. We've added 3 more. Well, I can't reach them. Well, we got to start again.
Now, I'll say this. As a conservative, and for that reason, I support DEI when it comes to spending. They'll never be able to spend a dime. But that's the only place you can have
it. We need massive DEI programs.
When it comes
to, all right, you're going to spend it now. Yeah. DEI must kick in.
DEI kicks in only when you go to spend it.
God. I mean, it's just when you think of it,
It's insane.
That's one of those things I just can't. That's one of the things from the last couple of years that I find just absolutely hilarious with liberal human beings, where they actually got to the point where they can still tax you. They can tax you. They can collect the money.
Yep.
They can have the money sitting in front of them, but they're so effed up, they can't even spend the money.
Can't spend the money. You got the
Because-
political will to allocate that money. The hard part is over,
Right.
and you can't move.
Yeah, you thought the hard part was collecting it,
know.
and the easy part should be spending it.
Yeah.
Just blow it. Give it
Just
out.
Go do it.
We can't. The rules and regulations we created make it so
Right.
we really can't do it. It may take another. Well, and we'll have to get some of the Trump stuff from being out in California. The same thing there.
Right.
When we need this emergency, the regulations goes, just cut it out and mail it.
Right. Do it.
And they're just, and he's just shaking his head. I mean, it was just, well, I'm telling you that might have been Friday, the turning point of more people accepting him. You and I talked about the polling that was done by Rasmussen that found more blacks and Hispanics right now support Trump. More support Trump than whites.
Right.
And it's very close. It's like 57% Hispanics, 55% whites, 58% black, I think it was. And you're just like, wow, he's put the message through.
Yep.
And the one message and everything's political, but you think about it, in 6.9 days now, you think of how busy he's been and how Biden just wouldn't answer any questions, do it. That's got to be noticed by the American people saying, this guy's rolling up his sleeves. I hate to use that type of of rhetoric, but he's rolling up his sleeves and he's getting to work and he's not taking vacations. And the things that he's doing, he's relating to the American public that's in trouble.
Right.
The American public. North Carolina, you're in trouble. We need to fast track this, get you the help. California, fast track this. What do you mean 18 months? It can take 18 months? No, it won't take 18 months. Then some Democrats and whistleblowers came out and said, no, it's going to take 18 months.
Right.
Because that's unacceptable. You can't do that.
Right.
You got to rebuild. You got to rebuild now.
Right.
I'm telling you, there are certain things, the symbolism of that backed by the substance.
That's the difference.
And we've said this to Republicans for the longest time. You just can't be substance.
No.
You've got to have the symbolism
Yep.
to back up the substance. But symbolism without the substance is garbage. That's what you get from Democrats.
Right. Well, this is, when you heard them talking about on the Bill Maher show with Stephen A. Smith, they were talking about Obama and the liberals and everything else. But what they didn't, get into, and this is exactly what I was thinking, he was all symbolism. For him, it was all the image. It was the idea of, again, as a, the term cocktail socialist, where you can stand around talking about things all day long and then you go home. You don't actually ever do anything. Well, with Trump, he talked about things, he promised things, and his first week, he's carrying out a number of those things. And over again, he shows it's not going to stop. We're going to keep, you got to get this done. You got to get this done. You got to get this done. Well, Obama would sit around and contemplate. Remember, he would grapple. He's grappling on gay marriage. No, he's not. He's just too chicken to say it.
Right. I have to tell you, watching Trump get off the plane and Newsom's reaction to him, liberals this weekend have to be more angry and furious and enraged than any Buffalo Bills fan out there.
Yeah, right.
They really do. Because I watch it and I went, liberals got to be livid right now.
Newsom has been
welcome. How are you? Thanks for being. It's like, oh my God.
But that's his. Think about it. That's his weakness. The mom standing there confronting Newsom in the wildfires thing, and then he says, "Well, I'm trying. I can't get a signal. I'm trying to call the White House. Trying to call. You're the governor of this state. Do something." And then he said it again, and she's, "Show me your phone. Prove to me that you're trying to call the White House." Oh my gosh, that was a great moment. That was because he's weak. He's weak at every turn. He's all about the imagery. By the way, have you seen the clips of the DeSantis debate? Those have been coming up again, and people have been putting shorts together on the clips. On that debate, and then he's there doing exactly what Michael Rappaport was saying the other day, where he just kind of does that. He's doing this
dance.
number, and his head's kind of bobbing. It's like this dude is a zero, absolutely worthless.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, welcome and good morning. Coming up following the top of the hour, more from the Sunday morning news shows, both the Vice President and Tom Homan.
Yeah.
Head of ICE on there. I mean, just great stuff. They have no more arguments left.
They really don't.
It's amazing to watch this. It really, really is. Look, I said this. The reason I voted for Trump was to stop the weaponization of government. Mm-hmm. I wasn't sure where he was going to go. Mm-hmm. I didn't know whether, whether any of the family influence he has would move him more to the left in his final term.
Right.
And so far, I'm telling you, he's just been great.
And
that's coming from, understand, that's coming from me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and look, he's demonstrated that there's a lot of work to be done, and he's up to the job.
Oh, yeah, there's still a lot of challenges they face, a ton of challenges.
Yep. And but it's a very good start.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Here we are on a Monday. Woohoo! Wow, ready to the 27th. I can't believe January is almost over.
Yeah, only a lot more shopping days till Christmas.
Well, the good thing is I did look at the 2-week long-range forecast for us, and no days under 32.
No, I'm loving it. So we're back to our normal winter.
It's
I'll take it.
I'll be able to go to the stock show and rodeo. They got a couple weeks left and see what's going on there.
Yeah. We've got I think this weekend. This weekend, Sunday, we're going to be at 73. And then Monday at 72.
All right.
I'm so ready for it.
Ready. Maybe get out there. Get out to the driving range, hit a few.
Yeah.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's go to the Sunday morning news shows.
Okay. All right.
Let's go to Face the Nation, CBS. You had a lot of Trump surrogates and social media furious that J.D. Vance was going on CBS News. Why are we rewarding CBS News? And you and I said on Friday, to these people, do you have a clue? Yeah. And they were criticizing Trump, and it's like, and they're Trump surrogates. Totally supportive of Trump normally and furious. It's not a reward.
No.
You're constantly trying to expand your base. If you go on Fox News, you're not expanding your base. If you go on OAN, you're not expanding your base. If you go on Newsmax, you're not expanding your base. When you have the argument and you have somebody who can argue the argument.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
J.D. Vance,
Yeah.
he's the one assigned to go into enemy territory.
Yeah. Right.
Listen to this here from Margaret Brennan. How condescending she is. Oh, my God. Oh, this is just, I'm just going to play it. Listen to this.
All right.
Because they're talking about FEMA. And apparently she got it wrong. She was paying attention to what was online where it was, and these were people that were more conservatives. When Trump said FEMA's got to go, they were saying they took it a step further. Trump wants to get out of it. The federal government won't help states anymore. States are on their own, and that's the way it should be. It's like Trump never said that. Yeah. And Margaret Brennan is basically, in my opinion, relating to that. Here we go.
FEMA has specialized expertise that some of these states just don't have.
Margaret,
in their arsenal. And
I wish
how
that they
will states who are lower income states, the Mississippis, the Kentuckys, the Alabamas, be able to do this for themselves without federal help?
Well, the president, to be clear, is not saying we're going to leave anybody behind. He's saying that in the way that we administer these resources, some of which is coming from the federal level, some of which is coming from the state level, we've got to get the bureaucrats out of the way and get the aid to the people who need it most.
She doesn't even understand what they're talking about.
Yeah, she doesn't get it. Yeah.
She doesn't get it. She had it completely wrong. Yeah, but a lot of people did on Friday. A lot of people that support Trump had it wrong. They thought Trump was saying we find it very interesting how there are so many Trump supporters that are furious if you don't support Trump all the way.
Yeah.
But then assign something to him that he has never said.
Right.
It's like with impunity. Like Trump. It's like I find that fascinating. But the way she's condescending about Mississippi, that she's saying because they're low income, that the politicians or their emergency management wouldn't know how to handle it.
Right.
That FEMA is better than the emergency management in Mississippi.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just
They need big government.
And he said, well, you're not saying they're on their own. You're saying that. What he's saying is, because Trump would not have been at that meeting in Los Angeles if he didn't want the federal government involved.
No.
Because there's no role for him. If the federal government isn't going to be there allocating money, then they could have simply looked at Trump and said, why are you here? You're not giving us anything.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with you. Get out.
Right.
And she didn't get it. I mean, they don't. This is where they're going to have problems because you've got people that are blunt and will call you out on your ignorance. And she was completely ignorant as to what Trump is talking about. He's saying that the FEMA bureaucracy is a waste of time.
Right.
As is so much of the bureaucracy out there.
Yeah, it is. It really is. They don't get it because they don't understand what the issue is. They're so embedded. Ms. Brennan here, embedded into the idea that only big government can do this for them, that only big government can handle it. And the fact is that if you look at what Trump was saying, it basically is talking about streamlining so that you make sure you get the help to the people that need it the fastest, that you're the most efficient in the process. And go ahead and make this a hill you want to die on. I suspect they won't. But when we're talking about people in North Carolina, we're talking about people affected by the wildfires in California. They're screaming for help, and you want to debate as to how it's going to happen and how long it's going to take, only for the sake of what? It taking longer? Well, it's going to be the process. We don't like messy. You're going to John Boehner this?
Well, I would dare to say, and I do not believe I'm going out on any limb whatsoever, but for the vast majority of things that happen in states where they have an emergency that happens because of a natural disaster or whatever, that they are much more able to know what to do than somebody out of D.C.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
but that was, she didn't know what she was talking about. Now this one here, still Margaret Brennan with J.D. Vance on illegal immigration. Okay, here we go. All right.
Well, this is a country founded by immigrants.
Well, this is a country founded by.
Country.
This is a very unique country, and it was founded by some immigrants and some settlers. But just because we were founded by immigrants doesn't mean that 240 years later that we have to have the dumbest immigration policy in the world.
Actually, the whole situation was different. The country was founded by people who came here when it was not a country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's mentioning the settlers this is a, they want you. This is, by the way, how old is this argument from the left? Oh, we're founded by immigrants. We're founded by immigrants.
Nobody's talking. Well, I mean, you have people talking about not wanting illegal immigration and whether we should have legal immigration. But
and Trump is at the top of that list and talking about legal immigration.
Right. This administration is talking about we need legal immigration, even if probably the majority of people supporting Trump do not believe that.
Right.
By what the polls show. Strictly by the polls.
Right.
But Trump has been out there saying ever since he was fighting with Jim Acosta, so that goes back, 6 years, 7 years, that we need legal immigration because we don't have women coming into the workforce post-World War II because they're all in the workforce. In fact, more women than men, last I saw, in the workforce in the United States. And the other one is you're not going to have a baby boom ever again like we had post-World War II. And if you're going to keep expanding an economy, you're going to need workers. And if the birth rate doesn't keep up with it, eventually you will. When that time is, I don't know. I don't have the demographics as to what workers are out there. But we'll know when that need is necessary because companies will either hire by remote or go to different countries. They'll do one or the other.
Right.
But it wasn't a country. When the Mayflower got here, it wasn't a country. There was no country.
Right.
There were people that had settled in certain areas. There were tribes, but the entire country was not. Those were explorers and then settlers.
Yep.
Completely different ballgame. But it's where she keeps bringing up immigrants and not illegal immigrants. Just amazing. But she lost there. Where's the next one? Okay, here we go. This is on unvetted people coming into the country. Here we go.
When you talked to us in August, you said, I don't think we should abandon anybody who's been properly vetted and helped us. Do you stand by that?
Well, Margaret, I don't agree that all these immigrants or all these refugees have been properly vetted. In fact, we know that there are cases of people who allegedly were properly vetted and then were literally planning terrorist attacks on our country. That happened during the campaign, if you may remember. So clearly not all of these foreign nationals have been properly vetted.
But there are 30,000 people in the pipeline, Afghan refugees.
But my primary concern as the vice president, Margaret, is to look after the American people. And now that we know that we have vetting problems with a lot of these refugee programs, we absolutely cannot unleash thousands of unvetted people into our country. It's not good.
These people are vetted.
Just like the guy who planned a terrorist attack in Oklahoma a few months ago, he was allegedly properly vetted. And many people in the media and the Democratic Party said that he was properly vetted. Clearly he wasn't. I don't want my children to share a neighborhood with people who are not properly vetted. And because I don't want it for my kids, I'm not going to force any other American citizens' kids to do that either.
No, and that was a very particular case. It wasn't clear if he was radicalized when he got here or while he was living here.
I don't really care, Margaret. I don't want that person in my country, and I think most Americans agree with me.
Seriously, she just kept running into a wall.
I know.
It doesn't matter when he was radicalized. And you can't prove that. This is the other thing, too. Here she is defending somebody who's a terrorist. Forget your children and what you want for your children. We need to protect the terrorist.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, it just keeps getting worse.
And the administration that we know is not vetting people is who she is using.
Yeah.
The last administration is who she is using to
As
say
the vetting standard.
as the vetting standard,
Right.
which is just
Yeah. Well, they were vetted. Says who? Biden?
the one thing I like about Trump's picks is what you and I've always said. Be blunt, but be right, and absolutely destroy their argument.
Don't flinch.
Right. Destroy their arguments because,
They're so easy
to quote
do.
Herb Brooks,
Mm-hmm.
because you can.
Yep. And don't. It's what we've seen with Trump. I asked during his first term, who are the Republicans going to be in the future? Because he doesn't flinch with everything thrown at him. And now you can add 2 attempted assassinations. He doesn't flinch. You need to pick the people that don't flinch.
You can go on every Sunday morning news shows of the liberal media and destroy them.
Yep. Yeah.
On these
That's a
issues.
perfect example. By the way, I had zero doubt in Vice President Vance in doing that.
Wait till you hear Tom Homan. We'll have him coming up. He was on with Martha.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
On ABC. Wait to hear this.
Yeah.
Because she's worried about the cost of removing illegal criminal aliens.
Right. Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That coming up next, 866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, we talk about Margaret Brennan on Face the Nation and going after Mississippi. You know, saying that, probably Mississippi doesn't know how to handle an emergency as well as D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Governor Tate Reeves of Mississippi. Hilarious elitism by Brennan at CBS News claiming that the people of Mississippi know less about emergency management than D.C. bureaucrats, all because her favorite Democrats in California and North Carolina have failed their constituents.
Yeah.
J.D. Vance did a great job handling her condescending questions. The disdain these people have for any Americans outside of their little bubble is so pathetic and revealing.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It really is.
It is. And they, they put it on proud display. They're proud of it. They really are proud of it. They think they're being a hero. Oh, don't worry, Mississippi. You're not capable of doing it. We'll make sure that we call for the big government to be there for you in your time of need because we know you can't handle this. Oh. I mean, seriously. They're just day by day making it worse.
But because once you burn them over and over, once they realize they're not winning any argument, they get desperate and emotional and will throw out a stupid line like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Thinking they're the hero.
Yeah.
I'm standing up for Mississippi because everybody knows they can't stand up for themselves. My gosh. Wow.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
It's like when I was like, oh, my God, he got her. He got her because he's so blunt. And this is the thing about so many of the people that are going to be in his cabinet. Mm-hmm. They know how to respond like this. Now, he's not in the cabinet, but Tom Homan here, head of ICE. Mm-hmm. Ready for this?
All right.
Here we go. On ABC. What's ABC's called?
This week?
This week, okay. Mm-hmm. I forgot. I haven't watched the full thing of that in such a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But here's Martha. Here we go.
to deport all of those people?
Well, I'll leave it up to Congress. I think Congress, the president has a mandate. This is the number one issue that people voted on. I think Congress has a mandate to give us money we need. What price you put on national security?
More detention centers?
What price you put on? What price you put on all these young ladies have been raped and murdered and burned alive? What price you put on that? What price you put on Lincoln Riley's life? What price you put on national security? Like I just explained, when you have a surge like this, we don't secure that border. That's when national security threats enter the country. That's when sex trafficking goes up. That's when the fentanyl comes in and kills 250,000 Americans. I don't put a price on that.
And on those detentions.
There you go.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's, as a liberal pretending you're worried about the cost. What about the cost? What about the cost? I don't know. Let's talk the Green New Deal.
They flush trillions down the toilet over the last couple of decades on BS climate change projects that do absolutely nothing.
Right.
And not a peep out of her.
Yeah. What about the cost of deportation? What about the cost of these raids? What about the cost? Because I'm a fiscal conservative.
I always look at her. I look at Elizabeth Warren. I even look at like Murkowski, even though she's a Republican.
Mm-hmm.
How come so many liberal women? What is it when they get to a national level? Why do they all talk in a whiny voice? Conservative women don't talk that way.
No. Well, because I think there's a difference of knowing when you're right and when you're not.
Okay.
When you know when you're, please, Elizabeth Warren, she sounds like she's trying to wrangle the children in a third grade, preschool, I was going to say second grade, preschool classroom to sit down for readings. Please sit down. Please let us tax you to death. Please.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just reading here from X. Adam Halsey used to be with Fox, right?
Yeah.
Fox, yeah.
Yeah.
He writes here, I've covered 12 hurricanes, mostly in the South. A couple of tornadoes in the South, an oil spill in the South. I played minor league baseball all across the South. Many have family and friends in the South. I'm a California boy, but the absolute disconnect with this region by the major media in New York and many in the political class in D.C. is staggering. CBS News needs to address the ridiculous insinuation about the South by Brennan on CBS, as we had played earlier. Well, the people in Mississippi, of course, people in Washington know much more about how to handle it than people in Mississippi would.
Yeah, don't think you can do it for a moment.
Oh my God! So
seriously,
I still can't believe, and all I could think was, wow. When you can't win 1 point, you're driven to desperation, and then your bigotry and your biases come out.
Well, that's it. Here's the thing. When you're part of the side that creates a new victim and a new set of victims every single day, you honestly believe in helping to build that you're the hero of everybody. And that really nobody is capable. You're capable. I mean, come on. You're doing a Sunday morning news show. So, rebuilding after a natural disaster, that's nothing. But it is that mindset that you're the hero. You're the hero. Well, that same mindset must include these people aren't capable. The world has plenty of actual victims. there are people who do need help. But the left has gone so much further than that. You need help because you're just not capable. And the big government is the answer. Don't worry, we'll take care of it for you, including themselves. They include themselves as a part of that. This is what they think, in fact, their role in the media, as you mentioned earlier. They don't think they're wrong. They think they're right on things.
Right. They
think they're the hero.
They think they're so smart, which is why, to go back to what we talked about Friday and a few other times, when it comes to, it's like, why are they so up in arms against when Elon Musk says, you are the media or we are the media?
Right.
Not talking about people like us who actually work in commercial media, but just the average Joe and Jane six-pack or boxed wine person.
Yeah.
I just hate the bigotry towards beer and leaving wine out.
Right.
No, but just the average person who's not, the average person who's not in the media becoming the media and having the ability to fact check, and Elon Musk making that known, and the people saying, well, yeah, you're right. Community Notes. I know you and I had the same reaction. I looked at Community Notes. We went, well, this is fantastic, because the average person knows, if they put a comment in and say this is the evidence, somebody's looking at that, and then it comes out through Community Notes. There it is. The Community Notes say this. You're wrong on this. There were a ton of Community Notes over the weekend. I went, Community Notes has it right. Community Notes has it right. Community Notes have it right. And we're like, when we saw how outraged the left was on this and the leftist media, who did they? We went to college for this. We're the experience. We're the blah 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 blah. It's like when my father, when he used to go to Board of Education meetings, and they'd look and they go, we understand your concern, but what you must realize is we are the experts, and we are highly educated when it comes to the instruction of Oh, shut up.
Well, Terry McAuliffe, Eric Swalwell, parents don't have a place in the classroom.
Yeah.
How dare you think
No,
you
you're
do?
right. It's that same elitism.
And I have a love-hate relationship with the whole Community Notes thing. Let's face it. If it weren't for Community Notes, I'd still be in Aerosmith. But I'm not anymore. But this is...
But when I asked you that one day, I said, and I think I said it on the air, I said, Eric, I have to ask you this question because I think it's great. Do you feel threatened in any way as a talk show host by Community Notes? Do you feel that somehow your voice is more important than someone else's voice? Or in the United States of America, should everybody be able to influence it? We know that everybody doesn't at the same level, but are you somehow scared as the left is? And we're laughing. No, it's great. It's supposed to happen this way. It's the United States.
Well, it's the way that the truth will always be found, and it's a much more efficient route, in fact, in finding the truth. And if you're against the process, it tells me you probably have something to hide. You don't want to be called out.
Yeah. There's no other reason.
Yeah, you don't want to be called out.
You don't want to be, yeah.
Again, Elon Musk was talking on Rogan. He said, I have high-profile individuals that come to me and say, can you take Community Notes off of my account? And he said, I'm not taking it off my own account. So no.
So what they're saying is the liberal media needs a safe place.
That's what they want, yeah.
Nobody will question them.
Right. Yep.
I just, I shake my head because you see it in the whole Mississippi thing from Margaret Brennan.
Yep.
I mean, the Community Notes thing. It's just the elitism. They really do believe they're elite.
Yeah. No,
they really believe
they think
really
they're
believe
smarter.
they're better.
Yeah, they think they're smarter. That's why it's for them. It's easy to put themselves in the mindset of a hero.
Because I look at it in the fact of either I'm right or wrong. And if somebody says, Gary, you're wrong, or Gary, you're right, you never get, well, I'm better.
Right.
Whether, I say it, I mean, we all know you're better, but we all, it's a right or wrong thing. It's not a better or less thing.
Right.
And that's what you see. The elitism is that they believe they're better than you. They're more highly educated than you. It's the whole thing that, well, you're just an auto mechanic. You're just a machinist.
Mm-hmm.
I have an education. You see it in these states are much more highly educated.
Right.
Or Democrats, the college educated, the educated people are voting for Democrats.
Right.
It's that same type of elitism that they're throwing out there, that if you're somebody who is a blue-collar worker, and the fact is there couldn't be anything further from the truth. Who do you think's smarter, somebody who has a art history degree or somebody who can tear apart and put together a modern automobile or diesel engine today?
Well, I mean, I was watching the guy. They did some plumbing work in my house, and they cut through the sprinkler lines. They had to. They did it deliberately. And they come back to rewire everything because you got wires that control the sprinklers. And I'm like, man, if I tried to do that, just a handful of wires, I'd be lost. The guy that came over and said, oh, no, we'll have it working in an hour. We're done. And then sure enough, in an hour they were gone. But the plumber comes over, and he's like, and he had to get under there. He actually got under my house. He's doing work under the house. He comes back and he's done. He's done in a matter of hours. And I'm like, my gosh.
Yep.
These, and I get this. And in fact, my association with the trucking industry for decades, these are people who know their own equipment. Now, they may not all be certified mechanics, but they know what's going on with their equipment. And if you stand around and listen for a minute, you'll learn how much you'll start to get the picture as to how much they actually know, how much people who actually do the things that are necessary actually know things, and how little you know when it comes to those things. I mean, it's mine, but the elite, they don't believe that. Wait, I sat in a classroom for 4 years. You can't tell me. I know plumbing. No, you don't.
Well, I remember when you and I first started working together, and somebody called and said they were I'm just a janitor.
Mm-hmm.
Or remember, we'd get that, oh, look, guys, I'm just a truck driver. And that infuriated us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We said, don't ever say that or think that.
Right.
Because that's what they want you to think.
Right. They do.
Look, we can all be right. We can all be wrong. And that's how I want to judge it, right or wrong.
Yep.
Because you may be wrong or something, or I'm wrong on something, or Eric's wrong on something, especially Eric. And if Eric's wrong on something, it's your fault.
It's usually because I've been given bad information by my fellow band members in Aerosmith.
But everybody knows what I mean. They think they're better, that they're a better human being, that they're more qualified, that they're more intelligent. Thank God when I was young. I mean, Dad said that to me a long time ago. Mm-hmm. People get a title and they believe they got an infusion of brains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's so true.
They really do.
Really is so true. They really do.
Yep.
But that Mississippi comment, that just stunk of elite, that these people, these poor people. And the thing is, a lot of times they don't even think it's elitism. They're we're compassionate for people in Mississippi and Louisiana. Those idiots. And thank God that we're here and Washington's here to take care of them, because they couldn't do anything for themselves whatsoever. They're completely, totally helpless. That's what they're thinking.
I'm the hero. I'm standing up for the people of Mississippi, because everybody knows they're not capable of even standing up. I mean, seriously, you have to finish the sentence.
I mean, it's
and every time you do, it just gets worse.
It's so condescending. And I love the Mississippi governor when he came out.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll try.
Yeah.
You mean the Washington, D.C. Democrats that got hundreds of billions of dollars for broadband and can't connect one person up because they can't get out of their own DEI way?
Right.
Those competent people?
Right.
The competent people that say, we can run the grid on solar and wind.
Uh-huh.
We don't need anything else.
Right.
And if you don't agree with me, you're a Nazi.
Right. The same competent people that run California into the ground.
The same competent people that wish to say a man can be a woman because the man says so and should be able to compete against a woman, and that's fair. And if women don't agree with it, then you intimidate and you threaten them.
And your daughter's the problem.
Yeah.
Remember that first big case out of California?
Yeah.
Your daughter is the bigot because she feels very afraid in the bathroom with a man.
And wasn't she like 7 or 8
She
or
was
9 years old?
she was.
Like
it was
that?
grade school.
Yeah.
Everybody back then, oh, don't worry, guys. This is an isolated case. No.
Yeah.
And here we are. And over again. Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. We're the hero. We know better.
It's fun tearing them to pieces, though. Their arguments.
Yeah,
I want to make
it
that
is.
clear. It's fun tearing their arguments to pieces. It is.
It's so easy.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And we always got to give out advice.
Yeah.
To those protesters protesting Donald Trump deporting criminal, illegal immigrants, you may want to fly American flags.
Yeah.
We had to do this back, 15 years ago?
Right.
When that happened? Remember the next day they all had American flags?
Right.
There were a couple American flags out there, but the majority were flying foreign flags to tell the United States what to do with illegal criminal immigrants.
I don't know. Today, the radicals are so bad, they may have started with American flags this time and then thought, oh, no, ew, it's an American flag. So
you may be right on that.
You're right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I got to play it one more time.
All right, let's do it.
I got to play it.
All right, go ahead.
Margaret Brennan, Face the Nation, talking to J.D. Vance. And number one, she has it wrong, as a lot of people did on Friday, assuming that because Trump said we might need to get rid of FEMA, that he was stating that there would be no federal help for disaster areas at all, which wasn't the case. But Trump surrogates were saying it.
Right.
It's about time states take care of their own problems. And I went, and as they were doing it Friday night, especially they were doing Friday night, and there's Trump in California. I'm like, well, Trump has no business in California if the federal government isn't going to be providing any money.
Right.
They'd say, get out. You're not a part of this. Right. This is all state. Well, that was never his intent to begin with. But apparently she saw that and was telling J.D. Vance that, like Mississippi, Alabama, Kentucky. Well, that, the Kentucky may have a point because of Mitch McConnell.
Yeah. Well, under his leadership,
but it was that basically she was trying to make the point that Mississippi, Alabama, and Kentucky could not handle their own emergency response as good as Washington could, implying that other states could, but those states could not. Here it is. All right.
FEMA has specialized expertise that some of these states just don't have.
Oh,
and,
Margaret,
in their arsenal. And
I wish
how
that they
will states who are lower income states, the Mississippis, the Kentuckys, the Alabamas, be able to do this for themselves without federal help?
Well, the president, to be clear, is not saying we're going to leave anybody behind. He's saying that in the way that we administer these resources, some of which is coming from the federal level, some of which is coming from the state level, we've got to get the bureaucrats out of the way and get the aid to the people who need it most.
But either way, however she thought it, but she was thinking that they were going to be on their own, which was, again, the narrative that both sides were promoting, but Trump wasn't.
Right.
Trump didn't promote that.
Right.
And J.D. Vance corrected her, but still it's the fact that you need those federal bureaucrats because Mississippi, Alabama, and Kentucky could not handle it on their emergency management, couldn't handle where to direct the state and or even federal funds that would be available.
Yeah.
That FEMA is necessary.
Yeah.
Because that was her point.
Right.
She wasn't saying the entire country. She was picking out states from the South.
Yep. They're not capable. Everybody knows. Come on. Mississippi can't stand up on their own. Yeah. This is the elitism.
And then the best was Governor Tate Reeves of Mississippi. Hilarious elitism by Brennan at CBS News, claiming that citizens of Mississippi know less about emergency management than D.C. bureaucrats, all because her favorite Democrats in California and North Carolina failed their constituents.
Yeah.
Oh! Oh!
Yeah. It's true.
Oh!
It's true.
Oh!
But what did you see in the moment that Newsom was confronted by the mob?
Oh, I know.
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to call for help. You're the governor. I'm trying to call Biden right now. No, you're not. Show me your phone. I love that. She was great. But it's the weakness of the left. We can't do this. The people of California can't stand on their own. No, you're keeping them from doing that. Your bureaucracy is keeping them crippled. You are tying their hands. They can't rebuild because you won't let them. Well, it often takes 18 months for permits, blah, 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 blah. Get out! Be gone!
I just really wonder the impact that will have.
I think I don't know how it changes voting in California, but Newsom has definitely been damaged by this. I don't know how long the damage continues for him politically, but I suspect it will be a while because it's going to take a while to rebuild. And at every step, he's there. You talk about the weakest governor. My gosh. It's so bad. I can't imagine being in that place. I can't imagine how frustrating and heartbreaking. You're going through the heartbreak of losing everything, And then your governor's out there and your local leaders are out there. Well, it could take a while because, the permit process takes time and it takes time. It doesn't need to take time. Expedite the process. Let's start doing it now. Why are you still talking? And they can't get over that. For them, they have to be in control of every step of the process, and they have to oversee it. Sorry, there might be a bird that's affected by you rebuilding.
As I said, I was trying to, never was able to get it working, the streaming for my great nephew's game, and I had to stop just because of everything I was getting on social media of Trump being there.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a powerful moment, and I'm sitting there watching that going, wow, that's not just what he said, it was a combination of what he said and how it all looked.
Yeah.
His presence that he had, and the message, which is, look, we need to get the job done. You can't be having the normal stinking politics here. Let's get this thing moving.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most powerful moments I've seen for a domestic emergency management issue that I've seen, not because there haven't been great moments. I mean, because you can look at DeSantis in Florida and say there were some great moments there, especially in the last couple of years with DeSantis, with the hurricanes that hit. But with Trump, it was different because he wasn't the state person.
Right.
He was the federal person. He was the president coming in and basically saying, what the hell are you people doing? It was the contrast that made it such an incredible moment.
Right. Yeah.
But it was powerful.
I think he's looking to demonstrate that contrast at every turn, by the way, which is easy to do because the liberals step in it and believe, again, because they believe they're the hero, they're going to jump out in front of you at every turn, and it's easy to demonstrate. He's not going to stop. He's not going to quit doing what he does. He's got a mandate here from the people, and he's got a very short time, relatively speaking. But now, we're well into it because really this began after Election Day. He went to work the day after Election Day. And this is something that I think confounds the left. What you can't demonstrate, I saw this opinion piece at The Hill. I was reading you the headline. Blue alert, why Democrats are poised to win in 28 and 32. By Rick Cunningham and Gary Alexander, opinion contributors at thehill.com. But it's garbage. This is the problem.
Now you're gonna make me want to read that article.
I know. Well, but what they run into time and time again is the lack of self-awareness. The biggest thing politically is what? Reading the room. Knowing what is needed, knowing what the problems are, knowing what the American people are wanting in terms of a solution. And we're far beyond this, this fantasy talk of, well, if one day this happens, we can do this. Well, we don't talk in those types of scenarios anymore because reality hit. Reality on inflation, reality on the border, reality on the liberal transgender movement coming after your kids, national security. All of these things are the reality that is a direct or indirect threat to every American family. And those are the problems. Because if you say, well, they have, oh, by the way, who they floated in this article? Shapiro as the top of the party.
I guess,
but what about the radical anti-Semites?
Oh, I know. I was just like, but no, my point was, okay, he would be the only one.
Well, no, I mean, that's who I would have. I almost mentioned it last week because we kept asking, we've been asking the question, who's at the top of the list? Well, I mean, yeah, Shapiro, because they say dream team of I think they said Whitmer, along with Shapiro. Shapiro at the top of that ticket, and I thought, well, I don't know. Yeah, the Democrats' potential dream team could be Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro at the top of the ticket with Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer as his running mate. I don't know about that because the anti-Semitism is still on full display with the Democrats, with the radicals on the left. You're going to be able to shore up your radical base with Shapiro. There was a reason he wasn't picked as Kamala Harris's VP. So that's what it comes down to. And Whitmer, yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. But if you're asking me, it would probably be a governor, and it's not going to be Newsom, based on the polls. But what was that poll that we did? Was it last week or the week before? And AOC was down at 1%, and there was basically nobody. There was no leadership. Was Shapiro on that poll anywhere?
I don't think so.
I don't think he was.
No, I don't think he was on there at all.
I think I was waiting to hear his name somewhere, and it wasn't there. And that's a problem. Because you can say Shapiro, and I know why you're saying Shapiro, but tell me who else is saying Shapiro of the rank and file. Show me where that support is right now.
No one, and to be making that prediction, it's like, okay, we need to have this is some busy work.
Yeah, exactly.
This is some busy
That's exactly
work.
what this
Op-ed
is.
piece is what it is,
right?
Because
sorry, you're not only are you trying to predict 28, but you're also throwing in 2032. Oh, come on, give me a break. But this is how desperate they are. Look. Listen to the phrasing of this. Blue alert. What is this, Kmart? Why Democrats are poised to win in 2028 and 2030. Poised to win. No. I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying they won't.
That's the headline.
That's a headline. Yeah.
I just found the story now. That's the headline.
Yeah.
Like breaking news.
Right. Blue alert. The blue alert. Give me a break. But that's where they are. They're desperate to find something, salvage something out of the ashes. Well, you have to know why it burned. You have to know why everything just went up in flames. Well, part of it is because you guys decided to go full on scorched earth. You guys went Russian collusion hoax. We can throw Charlottesville in there that everybody on the left was on board with. And all of these lies told about Trump. And you're still calling him and his surrogates Hitler. And you don't get it. So until stuff like that, where they really come out with oh my gosh, this was horrible, we can't do this anymore, and then they show that they're going to change, then nothing will change.
All right, I've just read the whole column.
Mm-hmm.
I scanned it real quick. I can sort of speed read.
Mm-hmm. But your comprehension plummets.
No, it actually doesn't. I look for I look for the key words or the key paragraphs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do the same.
And what was completely left out of this? What is left out of every analysis for the
issues?
Future? The issues.
Yeah.
There's nothing on the issues.
Right. No, they're trying to find some kind of again, heroes and saviors.
Well, they're talking, the blue wall, and if we can have Shapiro, then we can get Pennsylvania, and we save this, and we do this,
Michigan,
and we save
Wisconsin,
this.
Pennsylvania.
And one of the things that they brought up is, because Trump has picked some of the Congress people, there may be weaker Congress people in there, and so those seats may be none of it's issue-based at all.
Exactly.
None of it.
Exactly.
And if the Democrats are not going to look and realize if they suck on the issues now, they're going to, and they don't change, They're going to suck on the issues in 2026 and 2028.
Well, and here's
it
the
doesn't
other,
change.
And here's the thing too, with where the GOP is now under the leadership of Donald Trump. I don't know what those midterm races look like. I think there's a point to be made that the GOP could be better restructured by then, and even further strengthening their positions by the midterm. And that's going to be unlike any historic midterm, because this is unlike any historic presidency, and we're just a few days in.
86690 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. In order to manage speed, you need to understand the 4 factors involved in stopping a vehicle. Perception distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time you see a hazard until your brain recognizes it. The perception time for an alert driver is approximately 3/4 of a second. Reaction distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time your brain tells your foot to move from the accelerator until your foot hits the brake pedal. The average driver has a reaction time of 3/4 of a second. Brake lag distance also needs to be taken into account. When operating a vehicle with air brakes, it takes about half a second for the mechanical operation to take place. Finally, braking distance is the distance it takes a vehicle to stop once the brakes are applied. Braking distance is affected by the weight, length, and speed of the vehicle, as well as road condition. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Eric, the other thing that I think the administration's really doing well is the whole thing on transparency, especially on the border. I mean, you had Dr. Phil out there talking to a illegal immigrant who was charged with sex crimes against children.
Yeah.
And was walking the streets.
Right.
Dr. Phil was right there, and Homan's right there with him.
Right.
Homan's all over the place.
Right.
And I told you as I'm watching it, and we'll play that and a few other things coming up, I went, they can't win the argument.
No, they can't.
And we've
They
said
can't.
this. We've said this before. If you've been a long time listener to the show, and we said this during the first Trump administration, and we said, stop trying to win every battle, win the war.
Yeah.
Don't get into the useless conversations about stuff that doesn't matter.
Right.
Every time you argue, make it about something that matters. And that's what Trump is doing correct.
Yep.
And his surrogates are doing that also, especially Homan, because that's really number one right now. That was the number one issue.
Yep.
And he's hitting it big time.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Wow. It is so entertaining reading social media. I have not been looking at the Babylon Bee as much because the reality of social media is at times in the last week or so even funnier. This is Never Trumper Bill Kristol responding to Trump and Colombia.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Right.
Are you sure you're ready for this one?
I don't know.
Pretty clear pattern right out of the box. Trump picking fights with Democratic allies and signaling weakness to dictatorial adversaries. What the hell ever happened to him?
He was never a conservative.
Was he faking it?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, when it gets down to it,
my God,
because what did we hear though during those years? What did we hear going back to 2015 and 2016? You know, the whole never Trumper thing. Well, it turns out they were liberals, but over and over again, it was, you know, you saw signs. If they didn't say it directly, you saw signs of them saying, "This is too hard. This is too hard. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this." Well, if you're a conservative, then you adhere to your beliefs and principles even more so during the bad times. Go back to Bush in 2000 at the end of his second term, you know, talking about the banks and everything. Well, I basically had to abandon my conservative principles for this. You never abandon your principles. In fact, when it's the toughest is when you adhere to them the most. You should never waver, but you certainly shouldn't give them up because things become tougher because you face adversity. And we saw this with the creation of the Never Trumper group. And now I don't know if they qualify as a group. Is two people a group? I'm not sure. But the whole problem is they built it on nothing, on hatred for one guy. I don't have to like or hate anybody to agree or disagree with them. It's not about that, especially when they're a public servant. But when you listen to people like Bill Kristol and any of the Never Trumpers since then, you see very clearly they were never conservatives, ever. I'll never believe that they were ever conservatives at any point in their life.
They're not conservative. They're not libertarian. They're
Nope.
not even moderate.
No, they're not. No,
they caught, well, as what you said, that the one thing nobody's talked about, because it really seemed to hit in 2020 and 2021. And as you said, it's really that transformation of the COVID virus into a different virus, which is causing delusions in people, especially it seems to only be attacking liberals to the point where, or Never Trumpers that were trying to convince you they were conservative, and the virus is bringing out their true wacko delusional liberalism in them.
It really is the second wave of a different type of pandemic.
Right, exactly. You said it was an offshoot of the COVID.
It really was, and that's what you and it's why they won't change. There's not going to be any of them changing. We've seen few exceptions. Michael Rappaport, the professor we talked about. We talked about the billionaire, and
Pincus.
All of these people have told you where the change of heart was and why. That's the only thing I ask for. That's the only thing. If someone tells me they have a change of heart, and quite frankly, they don't owe anything to me unless they're running for public office. But when they tell you, all right, this is why I changed, this is when I changed, this is what was going on when I changed, that tells me that there was truly a change of heart. There was truly something that happened. Now, we can all stand around going, what took you so long? But they made the change. And those are the items that I look at in people. And then you look at the left now, where they just can't stop doing what they were doing. The Hitler name calling and everything else. They don't see it. Something's happening right now with Stephen A. Smith. I can't tell you what it is. He's still a liberal, but he's acknowledging what's going on elsewhere.
He's a befuddled and confused liberal.
Well, the problem is that when people do that and they don't say, I've changed and here's why, then sorry, but I have to put you in the category of you don't even understand you were a part of this and that you helped to build this. And you also don't understand, because of all that I just mentioned, you are in the wrong. If you're saying that people believe in Trump because of this, this, and this, you're saying they don't believe in you, because you're not saying you stand for those things. You're not saying you've had a change of heart. If you have, then it's time to speak up. It's time to say something about it, and that's okay. By the way, how many times have we seen liberals say, you know what, I felt much more welcome in a crowd of conservatives.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any concern with you whatsoever, even if you are a devout liberal, until you get to the point of being a radical, talk about changing definitions, the government controlling people's lives, going after women in sports, and going after people and punishing them. And if you're a full-on radical, I have no place or tolerance for you, and I don't need to. I'm not going to ever live in that space. But if you decide that you've had a change of heart, or you just want to have an open discussion, this is one of the reasons that I actually have a paid subscription to the Free Press. Barry Weiss started the Free Press, because I believe that true journalism plays a critical role in a free society. I've always believed that. And I see the work being done there at the Free Press. I know not everybody agrees with me that writes over at the Free Press. I don't need them to. I just need them to be intellectually honest.
Well, the same thing. Did you hear that J.D. Vance went after National Review in the Wall Street Journal?
Yeah.
And again, it was a short statement.
Mm-hmm.
You and I've disagreed with stuff coming out of the Wall Street Journal editorial page
Mm-hmm.
and National Review, but we've also agreed with a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
But the fact is, they're open.
Right.
They're open to, different points of view, and that's all I expect.
Right.
Where he hit them on, I still haven't seen the article. I don't know what article he was specifically referring to. I want to know, but I want to. When J.D. Vance said, I want to know precisely what article was that, because you and I've read articles and go, well, I don't agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I agree with that.
Right.
I agree with that. But they're trying, for the most part, they're trying to be intellectually honest. It's not pure BS.
Right.
Being thrown at you. It's not just an attempt of delusional brainwashing or intimidation that you see, from the left. And I have no problem with, because we've talked about it all the time, Republicans and people that are Republicans and people that call themselves conservative, they argue all the time.
Right. Yeah.
And that's fine. But what I find is that they may argue, but most of them want to get to the exact same point. It's how to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
There seems to be more discussion as to what the path should look like to get to a certain point than disagreeing about the conclusion of the point.
Exactly. And as long as it's open, and I believe they're being honest about, what they, look, I can point out and say, I think they're wrong. But as long as they're doing that in that kind of open way, it is really like community notes in that way. Because there's a lot of us that have taken issue with something written at, the National Review, the Wall Street Journal, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, don't get me started on Fox News. But it's okay. That's all right. Look, what have we seen in Chris Cuomo? Something has changed. I don't know what that is. He would have to explain that. But his approach has been different in the last year, roughly.
His goal is to become Attorney General for President Andrew Cuomo.
Right, exactly.
Just throwing that
exactly.
out there.
Well, you got to start with mayor first, but we'll see if that happens.
That is a solid point.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't trust that because I haven't seen it, and I don't buy into any kind of change of heart there. He hasn't expressed a change of heart, but there's been a different approach. But if it's only to pander,
well,
if the attempt is only to recognize what the audience is looking for, then okay, that's a start.
Well, he may have changed on a few issues. I mean, Michael Rappaport has changed.
Yeah,
the whole thing about Hegseth, and his situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from personal experience.
Mm-hmm. Defense Secretary now.
Right, Defense Secretary, right. But
yes.
Anybody I've ever known in business, while they're cheating on their spouse, will cheat in business.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There's not one exception that I've ever seen, ever.
Right.
But people that have realized they've done wrong, embrace religion, and really turn around their lives, whether that's their problem, cheating or alcohol or whatever, those people that truly commit are truly changed, and sometimes even stronger.
I made that point about Hegseth to a friend of mine.
Advocates for integrity. Now, I don't know him personally.
No, I don't either.
I don't know him personally, but Trump gets to pick who he wants, and it seems as if the people close to him believe him.
The point I made to a friend is similar to what you just said. They know that they are under the spotlight, well, especially if they're a public servant, in this case, defense secretary, but anybody in that position, in a high-profile position, that has been through that and claims to be, reformed, reborn, or however you want to phrase it, quite often knows that they are under the spotlight and works every day to prove that they have been, I don't know, again, rehabilitated or whatever you want to call it, because they understand the world is watching them. They understand the most important people in their lives, their family, are watching them. So you have to prove that. You have to earn that. That has to be earned if you want redemption, true redemption. But that's something that is on, and we said this from the beginning, that's on Hegseth in that regard. But I don't lack confidence in his ability to do the job as defense secretary.
Now, when you look at, for example, Michael Rappaport, he has been so crystal clear in what he says that there's no doubt he has changed. With the Bill Maher, there's been some change, a little bit of change, whether it's for his show or whether he personally believes it. I tend to believe he has changed some, not just based on his show, but based on his podcast, talking to people.
Yeah.
And the same thing for Stephen A. Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is some kind of change, but are they
something?
Something.
Right.
There's a movement.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Our show ends at 5 a.m. Central Time, 6 a.m. Eastern Time. And right after that, our podcast starts. So if you can't listen to the entire show, you can listen to our podcast. Or when our show is on, if you cannot listen to one of our great radio stations that carries it, we stream on our Red Eye Radio app all 5 hours.
That's right. It's free. The app is absolutely free.
Yes, absolutely free. And coming up following the top of the hour, President Trump and the politicians of California. You won't want to miss this audio.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.